Valerie View, speaker view. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm hoping you can all see and hear me okay. Thank you for those of you that have muted this already, which is perfect. I've got loads I want to share with you. So what I'm actually going to do is share the screen and then we can get started. So hopefully you can all see my screen. Let me know if you can't. I think I should be able to see the chat, but let me know if you can't see my screen and then I can come back out. Today is all about talking to you about how to secure publicity ahead of the event, if that's what you're looking for, and also ongoing from that point of view. Some of you have done some PR before in the past. Some of you are just getting started with it. It has changed so much over the last few years. So we'll go into, what the opportunities are now for you. And we'll also be discussing the journalists that will be coming along to the event and how we're having an opportunity to work with the event at Best of Enterprise. I just ask all of you to mute your session, if that's okay at this stage. If you've still got it open, because I can hear the clattering in the background. And then that way we can keep it silent. And then what I will do at some point is get you to, ask your questions and get you to unmute. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so we've got lots to cover off in the next 60 minutes. I don't want you to leave early. We've got up to 60 minutes. We won't go over that time. I don't want you to leave early because at the end, there's an opportunity if you are interested to be featured on a live TV interview Festival of Enterprise events. So this is across both days. There is a TV channel that's going to be there and we're working with them and they are looking for live interviews. So if that's something you're interested in, then please stay at the end. I'm going to be sharing that with you. I'll also be sharing with you the journalists that are going to be there that want your stories, that are looking for stories. So obviously I'll dive into a lot more in a little bit more detail. What would be great is if you could introduce yourself. If you pop it in the chat, hopefully you can all see where the chat is. If you pop it in the chat, just tell us, what it is you do. I know we're all going to have an app soon that Festival Enterprise are bringing out, so we'll all be able to connect with each other. But this is a great way in advance. There might be some synergy between you guys that you might want to connect to each other or talk or arrange to meet up. Or you might have stories that you can kind of share with each other or some case studies, or you might want to kind of put together from a PR angle. So if I can get you all to just introduce yourself in the chat, just a very quick, short, what you do, and maybe if you've had any PR success as well. For me, we probably haven't met before. So my name is Rachel Taplin. I'm the founder and proud owner of Media Matchmaker and a company called Blue Boom Media. So I teach people how to do their own PR and connect you to journalists. So I'm not a PR agency, and PR agencies do a fantastic job. I'm all about just educating you on how the media has changed, on how you can connect to journalists yourself, and how you can actually connect to the right type of journalists. We'll go through today what makes a good press release, what makes a good story, what not to do, and all those kind of things. And we'll be covering off what journalists will be at the event as well. So all of you are here today because you are exhibiting at the Festival of Enterprise on the 23rd and 24th of October. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I know such a lot of effort has gone into it so far. It's going to be amazing. The registrations are going really well. You guys are obviously getting prepared yourself. And I think they're expecting up to 5,000 business owners across the 2 days, which is brilliant. Some amazing speakers, which is fantastic. So some of you may also be speaking yourself, but certainly I know that you're all exhibiting. Obviously, what I want to try and do is help you get the most out of the 2 days and try and secure some publicity for your business, either, as I said, before the event or ongoing. Now, we are holding at the event across the 2 days. I think it's at 12:30, but I know that sometimes slots are changing. 12:30 for up to an hour, a Meet the Journalist event. Now, I've done this before very successfully, where we have a panel of journalists on the stage, and the first half of the session is where they ask your questions, answer your questions, so you can put your questions to them. They teach us what they're looking for in stories and how their media outlets have changed, because the medias are really changing over the years. So a lot of regional newspapers now are becoming podcasts. They're creating their own podcasts just so that they can keep online. So everything's really changed. So it's going to be a great way for you to come up to speed in terms of securing publicity for your business. So we've got that over the 2 days, and this is the list of the journalists or the people that we've got that we've featured there. And so we've got across all media outlets. We've got radio, we've got online, we've got print. We've got podcasts. Podcast is fantastic. If you haven't done a podcast yet, I'm sure you will be doing one soon. If you want to get involved with Media Matchmaker, we have a free Facebook group that you can join. September, we've just covered off all of how to do radio and secure radio. I interviewed the TalkSport producer who's actively looking for stories. And October is all about podcasts. So we're going to be interviewing people on how you can create your own podcast and also how you can be featured on podcasts, but why the media are using podcasts as well. So if you want to get involved with Media Matchmaker, it's totally free to join. You can join our Facebook group. But these are the list of the journalists that will be featured over the next over the 2 days at the event. So this will be, as I say, I think it's about 12:30. So the first half is you'll get to ask your questions to these people, and then the second half, what we do, and it works really well, is we kind of pick some stories out so people can pitch. So you'll have the opportunity, if you can join us. Obviously, some of you will be manning your exhibition stands, but if you can join us, you have the opportunity to pitch your story. But as I say, at the end, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can actually put your story in advance to them, because the media are always looking for stories, but what they're not looking for is an advert, and I'll go through that with you in a minute. The number one mistake that people make. So have you all, I'm just going to come out of this for a minute, have you all written now your chats? Let me just find this back. This is where I struggle with finding you again, so bear with me. Oh yeah, brilliant. Okay, so some of you have. Fantastic. Okay, so brilliant that you've done your chat. You've all introduced each other. I'll come back in a little while and find you so I can obviously answer any questions that you might have. But feel free as you go along to ask any questions, and then I'll come back to them halfway through and we can answer the questions for you, and hopefully we'll have a chance at the end. Okay, so moving on. Just to give you a bit of context, today is all about securing publicity for your business. Now, I would imagine you're at the event because you are B2B. That you are looking to attract business owners, whether it's the SME markets, from a B2B point of view. So therefore, you may not want regional coverage or local coverage, and you aren't interested in the West Midlands media. That's absolutely fine. What we can do as well is share with you today how publicity works across all media channels. Now, there are over 95,000 journalists in the UK and media contacts, whether they're freelance, whether they're in-house. And there's over 44,000 media outlets. So a media outlet is radio, TV, digital and print. So there's a massive opportunity. So if you're here today, you might be in technology, you might be in manufacturing, you might be health, lifestyle, whatever you're in, we can pinpoint the journalists that are right for you. You need to match your story to the right type of audience, because PR is not about ego. Yeah, it's great sometimes to say you've just been featured on radio. It'd be good to go on your press page, but really PR is starting with the end in mind. What is it? Excuse me, I'm struggling with my cough and cold. What is it you're looking to get out of PR? What's the end of it for you? It's not an ego thing, as I said. It's about having an end in mind. New customers, selling a book, driving traffic to your website, get them to come to the exhibition. What is it you're looking to achieve? And then you need to match your customers to the media outlets. So that's where your story needs to be. And now, with the rise of the influence, there's over 768,000 influencers, which is massive. So this is how things have changed over the years. You know, there's traditional and there's digital PR. So sometimes, you know, you've got to work out what's best for you. Traditional PR is great, isn't it? If we can say we've been featured in the Times or the Telegraph or the Guardian, but also if you can get online, it's actually even better from an SEO point of view, from a trade point of view, maybe to position you as the influencer and the expert, and we'll be coming on to that as well. So when I talk to you today about PR, I'm talking to you about the traditional and digital PR. So thanks for all listening so far so quietly, which is great because you're all muted, which is wonderful. Thank you. So how hard can it be? So forgive me if you are great at PR and you've done really well. I'm going to go back to just a few basics. PR can be really easy when you know how, but it can be really difficult if you just kind of don't get it. And the number one mistake that people make is, and I've seen this happen recently, I've been sending out the press releases on behalf of Festival of Enterprise, send it to the regional media and the trade magazines. And even I've seen this mistake from one of the biggest exhibitors and keynote speakers, because we all do it, and I've done it in business as well. The number one mistake we make is we write a press release and really it's an advert. And if you take anything away today, this is what you want to take away. PR is about an emotional connection. PR is about telling a story, you know, sharing an insight, offering value. Everything we do with our marketing, really, you know, PR is about telling a story, not selling your business. Advertising sells, PR tells. So if you can take this away with you and start thinking about your stories and your press releases, and probably any of your marketing, because your PR is just part of your marketing strategy. And you know, with your marketing campaigns or your newsletters, you're probably adding lots of value. You need to do the same with a press release. So there's no good whatsoever just writing a press release to say you're exhibiting at the Festival of Enterprise and to come along. We need to know why you're there and how you're helping the businesses, what's changed, what case studies have you had, what success stories, what's been challenging in the last few years, how's networking changed, how has your business changed in the industry, what's leading at the moment. Think about the stories that are behind it. So your job is to be the great source of information. The job of the journalist is to introduce you, whether it be on radio, then introduce you with you can give them an overview of your bio and an outtake of what you do. Your job is to give the information and the great value. And that's what you always need to make sure you do with PR. When you're writing a story, it has to add value and it has to have that emotional connection. So look at some of the press releases, and the easiest thing to do is look at where you want to be featured. You will probably have in your mind 4 or 5 at least media outlets or radio stations or newspapers, whether it's national newspapers, where you want to get featured yourself. So have a look at, you know, where you want to get featured and see what the headlines are like. Are they technical headlines? Are they lifestyle? Are they chat? Are they friendly? Are they formal? Look at how long the articles are as well. Are they 300 words, 500? Everything we do has changed so much. The way we consume the news has changed so much. You need to be able to adapt and see what your media outlets are doing. Okay, so why am I talking to you today, and why am I kind of sat here today as like the PR expert? Well, as I said, I'm not a PR agency. I'm a businesswoman. I've been in business for 25 years, but I've always worked in the media. So I started off working in radio, so selling at radio advertising. I've always worked with SMEs. That's where I love it, because every penny counts, doesn't it, that we spend, and we need to get a return on investment, and we really care about our business and our customers. So I've always worked with SMEs. I then had an ad agency for 8 years. And when my daughter was very young, I wanted to set up a business so I could work flexibly around her. And I set up this magazine called Mums in Control. It did extremely well. Our print run, I think I was printing about 250,000 copies at our peak, which was larger than some of the glossy women's magazines. So it was doing incredibly well as a business. And I got to the point where I really wanted to kind of use PR to raise the profile of the magazine, but also my profile as well. And I had no idea how to go about PR. So I did what most of us have done probably in the past, or maybe doing now. And as I say, PR agency was a great job. I hired a PR agency, and it was the back in the day when business was booming and I could afford one. And they did a fantastic job. They got me onto Good Morning Britain. I was featured in the Daily Mail. And it was fantastic. But if you're in business in 2008, 2009, you may remember that we had the credit crunch, and it was a terrible time. And the first thing that got kind of strangled and nobody wanted to do anything was advertising and marketing. And that's what my business was built on. So I really, really struggled. So I learned how to do my own PR. I went to a seminar, I saw someone speak, I followed a formula, and I just got good at doing my own PR. And these are the things I'm going to share with you today on the principles that you can apply, because once it clicks, it's really easy. So whether it's you that's going to be doing it, or you're the marketing person in the company, or you're going to delegate this to someone in the marketing, they just need to understand how to make that emotional connection. That's the first side. And then the second side is just having the right PR contacts. You don't really want your press release to just end up on the news desk. I interviewed yesterday a producer for Talk Sport Radio and Talk Sport and Talk Radio, and he said they have a generic news desk email that everything comes in. They don't often get to look at them. They do look at some of them, but they don't get to see all of them. If you can specifically put it to the lifestyle editor or the manufacturing editor or the business editor, and I'll share with you how you can find those contacts, that's the best thing to do. And I learned how to do those two things. So I went on to share my story, make emotional connections, be a case study. And I've gone on to do hundreds of radio interviews. I've been featured across most TV channels, most of the women's glossy magazines. And my story was nothing special. I was just a mumpreneur trying to achieve the work-life balance and help other mums do the same. But I got the PR bug, and it absolutely transformed my business as a time when I was flying high, but also at a time that I was struggling. And since 2012, I've now been training people how to do their NPR very successfully. And now we've launched Media Matchmaker, where we not only train you, we also connect you to the journalists. I'm just going to come out of this and see how everybody's doing and see if there's any questions so far. Okay, so brilliant. You're all introducing yourself, so that's fantastic. Okay. So let's get sharing again. So the first thing to do is with your PR, is consider how the news and the media has changed. I interview lots of journalists and editors. And I interviewed, this was a couple of years ago actually, the editor of the Post-and-Mail, Birmingham Post-and-Mail, which is now part of Reach, and they will be there at the event, at the Festival of Enterprise, and the editor-in-chief is going to be there. And it was him that said to me over a coffee, he said, the way we report the news now has changed so much, and the journalists are saying it all the time. They no longer proactive, they are very reactive. Oh, Yuki, if you could just mute, and Paul, if you could just mute what you've got there. So they're very reactive as opposed to reactive. I'll get you to mute from your end, if that's okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So you need to be so the media are reactive to the news. So there we go, guys. I'm just going to stop the screen share. Yuki, can you just mute your at your end, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think I'm muted.
Brilliant. Or Alenka, anybody that hasn't got it muted, could I just ask you to mute? That'd be really appreciated. You know how to mute? Just because it might be just difficult for everyone else to hear. I think we're okay now, so brilliant. So forgive me about that, stop about that, sorry about that. Let me just share the screen again with you. So yeah, so you need to be very kind of the media are very reactive to the news. So what they're doing is every morning they're kind of sitting down and seeing what's trending, and you guys can do the same. What the editor-in-chief in the Post-and-Mail said is they are kind of seeing what's trending, and they are reporting the news that reflect what's trending from Google or Twitter or whatever it is. Now, this is because you guys are all your own media outlets. You are reporting the news and you are trending the news, and the journalists now are reacting to it. Whereas gone are the days where they used to lead with the stories, they're now very reactive to it. Now, this is a great opportunity for you guys, because whether you've got Apple, Mac or PC, or you subscribe to different news channel, put your Google alerts on, you can see what's being discussed every day. This is a great way for you then to become the influencer and possibly approach the media to say, in light of today's story, I can comment on this. Because what will happen with the news is, let's say you wanted traditional local regional news stories, and there was a breaking national news story from a business point of view that you knew you could talk about from a local regional point of view. I would highly recommend, if you wanted your local customers, that you go to your local online business channels or consumer channels, wherever, whether you're B2B or B2C, and share with them, you know, I can comment on today's trending stories, because it's more likely then you'll get into the studio within a couple of hours to report on that story. So now is a great time for you to be able to see what's going on trending, and for you to come with the influence and secure publicity this way. And it works, it really does. I spoke just a couple of weeks ago at an event, and somebody just got on radio literally within, I think it was a few days of listening to talk, because they followed what was trending in the news and they got asked to go into the radio station. So see, you know, what's trending and see how, you know, things have changed. I've already talked about this, when most people go wrong with writing a press release. They're writing an advert. As I say, if you take anything away today, this is the best thing to do. Your job is to be the great source of information, that emotional connection. As I say, they're not interested in the fact that you're just exhibiting at the Festival of Enterprise. They want to know why you're there, how you've helped people. So think about what your success stories are, what your actual stories. And this brings us on to the next slide. Have you actually even shared your story? Because you're obviously in business for a reason. You're working for the company for a reason. The company exists for a reason. Have you created something innovative? Have you expanded over the years? Have you overcome something? Have you changed people's lives? What is that emotional connection? What is the story that you've got? And share your story. Have you actually even shared your story? Because some of us are a bit scared of PR, but journalists want stories. Years ago, they used to have, and I'll refer to the West Midlands media. I fully accept that you're probably going to be all over the country, and also you may be trade and B2B. But if I speak about the West Midlands media, because some of you will be in the West Midlands, the Birmingham Post and Mail, for example, would have had 30, 40 journalists working there quite a few years ago, or even Radio WM was in their studios not so long ago. They've probably got a quarter of the staff that they used to have. I mean, 5 years ago, I used to say half the staff, but it's gone down so much. And these journalists are not only writing the articles now, they're social media journalists as well. So everything they do has got quicker, and they have to churn the stories out. I was interviewing a freelance journalist for the Financial Times and the Telegraph, and she said to me, you know, when we have with the journalism that we do, and I said, pardon? Journalism. She went, I said, do you mean journalism? She went, no, journalism. I'm like, wow, okay. So you churn the stories out. She said, well, it's not because we're lazy. We have to churn the stories out really, really quickly. So the media really are moving really fast. So if you can help them, absolutely fantastic. So first and foremost, see what's trending. You know, have a look at today's news. Is there anything you can relate to or talk about? Or share your story. Have you done that with your regional media, or local media, or trade press, or wherever you want to be? And as I say, when I talk about PR, it's not just the traditional PR, it's the online as well. And I can help connect you to any journalist that you want, whether it's traditional or digital. Case studies. Case studies are a fantastic way to secure publicity. I probably had 50% of my PR as a result of being a case study. So this is where you help people. So the journalist will sit down, let's say this was for Good Housekeeping, I think this article was, and they obviously wrote an article about women and work-life balance and stuff like that. So they often have an expert, someone that will talk about, you know, how to achieve the work-life balance, and then they'll get some case studies of people that are achieving the work-life balance. I think that was what was for me. This is a case study here, Supermum can be a super boss. This was for the Daily Mail. So they were writing about flexible franchising, and Mums in Control was a flexible franchise. So they wrote about flexible franchising and how to go into it and what to look out for in franchising, but also then they featured Mums in Control. It was amazing for my business because PR is so credible. It kind of raises your profile, builds credibility, but most importantly, it does bring you customers. So whether you're here, you know, as an exhibitor and you've got loads of money to allocate to PR, or you're on a budget, as most of us are in business, this is one of the most cost-effective ways of kind of raising your profile and creating new customers, which is what we all want. So case studies can be fantastic. I did a live this morning, National Days and Celebration Days. Do you know there are over 400 national and celebration days? You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. This is the point I'm trying to get across. Journalists are cyclical. They know that things that are coming up. Every year we know in January we're going to be talking about weight loss resolutions. In September we know the kids go back to school. You know, there's always certain things that happen. Is there anything in your business that happens every single year that you would be able to ride off the back of? Or indeed, is there a national celebration day? If you come along to Media Matchmaker, you can access all these completely free. We've got, like, we call it a VIP media pass, and so you can download these. You can try it for 30 days. But there's over 400 national and celebration days. Now, do you remember I said to you when I first learned how to do my own PR, I went to an event to see someone speak, and it was all about how to launch your own national day. So I came back from it, thought, right, okay, we're going to launch. I had a secretary back then, or a PA, and came up with the idea of launching National Working Mums Day. And I did a survey. I regionalised the survey because the media love regional stats. So if you want regional coverage, you need to have a regional angle. If you want to be in the trade magazines, you need to be able to relate it to industry news. It has to have relevance. Your story has to have relevance to the audience. So I regionalised all the stats and everything, sent it out. I did employ someone to help me with this. But from one press release, I got featured on 70 radio stations, 15 of which were live interviews. This stuff really does work. I do a lot of speaking around the country and share with everybody how they can do this. This was one lady, she was a poet, and she found out that it was World Poetry Day, so she contacted a local BBC station to say, did you realise it was World Poetry Day? She did it a few weeks in advance, and actually radio planned literally that day or the next day because they need to be topical and trending. So they didn't want to know 2 weeks before that it was going to be World Poetry Day. So she phoned up the day before. She got on the radio station. She was featured for 18 minutes and they credited her business. I interviewed literally last week or the week before a lady that got interviewed on Talk Radio. And it was an accident, not Talk Radio, sorry, Virgin Radio with Chris Evans. And it was actually an accident how she got featured on there. She sold out of a year's worth of stock in less than a couple of hours. This is the power of PR, and I've seen it happen time after time. So think about, are there any national celebration days? As I say, as with Working Mums Day, it was absolutely amazing. 70 live radio interviews. And what they did was they took the survey results and then just mentioned the results in the different radio interviews that I did. And if you want to access all of that to listen to how I've done it, you can access that yourself. I'm just going to stop the share here and see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions so far? Thank you for introducing yourself, by the way. That's really appreciated. If anybody wants to ask any questions, if they just want to come on board and, just literally unmute themselves and ask a question, feel free. It's all going very nicely to plan. No, okay, so type your questions there if you've got any, and then I can come back to them. But definitely, if you haven't done already, if you joined a little bit later, please make sure that you actually introduce yourself, because it is all about the networking as well. I think it's going to be great because obviously we're there for the 2 days. We've got a press area and a media area that you'll be able to meet the journalists. As I say, when towards the end of this, I'm going to share with you how you can get interviewed on TV, because we're doing some live TV interviews across the 2 days, and also how I can share your story with the journalists that are going to be there, but also the West Midlands media too. So moving on, the rise of the influencer. I want to cover this off because this has been massive over the last 6 years or so, really, how the digital side has exploded. You may already be an influencer yourself. This is where the quality PR comes in. You are building your community. You've got your followers. You've got great content. What I would consider doing is not always think with PR, it's got to be massive. And like I say, the Times or the Telegraph or the Guardian or the online trade magazines or wherever it's going to be. Think about the smaller influencers as well. Maybe someone like yourself, you've got all of your loyal customers and they've got all of their loyal customers. Swap content. That's why I'm saying some of you here today, there might be some synergy between your business. Is there some content, some articles that you can swap? Because let's face it, it's hard work sometimes, isn't it? Trying to think about what to write about and the angle of stories. That's why I say, see what's trending in the news and reflect it. See what people are talking about with Google Alerts. Not teaching you to try and suck eggs, by the way. You probably know all this already. But the rise of the influencer is fantastic. But a lot of us are scared, aren't we? We're scared to position ourselves as expert. I had it yesterday in an online live, a Meet the Journalist event that I did. People were actually saying to the producer of Talk Radio, but I'm not sure I'm an expert. The producers and the presenters and the journalists, they have no idea what you do mostly in your business. You are the expert. You're the source of information. I'm not there to trip you up. They want you to be able to give them the information. If you don't know that question, you can be honest. I'm not asking you to do anything without integrity. You can just basically say, not sure about that. I've never been asked that. I'll find out. But I bet you any money, if we met for a coffee or I come to your stand at the Festival of Enterprise and I ask you about your business, you're going to know about it. If I ask you about your industry and how it's affecting your industry, you're going to know about it. That makes you the expert. Here's a definition. A person who has a comprehensive and authoritative knowledge of a skill in a particular area. That's you. And we're so nervous about putting ourselves forward. As I say, you might be the business owner that's exhibiting here. You might be the marketing person. You might have a spokesperson for the company. They need to position themselves as the expert. Lots of people, are on radio or TV because they've positioned themselves as expert. Look at Martin Lewis, the money man. We all trust him. We kind of, value what he has to say. He's positioned himself as the expert and done a very good job. Claire Rainey used to be the retail expert. I think she's recently just changed the name now. But everyone's an expert, so you need to position yourself and put yourself forward. And I'll go on to that in a minute, how you position yourself as the expert. The benefits are unbelievable. I was just a mompreneur as a businesswoman and as a franchising expert, but because I put myself forward, I get asked to kind of quote and comment on business interviews, anything to do that was breaking news. I even got asked once to organise a mompreneur summit for the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and I felt like I was, that imposter syndrome. I felt like I shouldn't have been there, but I'm good at what I do. I deserve to be there. and you just kind of a bit of confidence. It's like anything we do to start off with from a marketing point of view, or sales, or in business, it's you just have to get a confidence up, but you need to position yourself as the expert. I've done TV interviews. I was asked to do, I think it was when David Cameron was speaking, to comment on his speech on radio. I couldn't do the radio interview that morning, so then the TV channel asked if they could speak to me, because if you get into the BBC Little Black Book, for example, on radio, they actually share their contact details on TV. So if you can't do radio interview, that TV might contact you instead, or you might go across both. Similarly with BBC WM, as you can hear, I'm a Brummie. With WM, they will share their details. I've also been interviewed on BBC Radio 2 as a result of my details were just in their little black book. So maybe you just want to start small and it will have a snowball effect. And I promise you it does have a snowball effect. Hopefully getting all this okay. So hopefully you got some great content. I'll come back to your questions in a minute. Introducing yourself to the UK media. This is one of the easiest ways. You don't need a press release to get publicity. It's great if you are sitting there and you are great at writing, or you're employed as a marketing person, you're great at the articles, absolutely fantastic. So mirror, look at what the articles, the headlines are like, make sure it's relevant to the audience, submit your articles, brilliant. But you can also just introduce yourself and regularly introduce yourself to the media. We spoke to, as I say, this is what my most relevant, I interview journalists all the time, but the producer yesterday from Talk Radio was saying, if you send us an email once a week just saying this is what I'm doing, and show up and this is my story, he said eventually something will just click and we'll need you that day. He said you're not a pain, it doesn't matter, and I'll get used to knowing, oh, that's Rachel's email again, here's an update of all her Media Matchmaker members, I'll have a look, scan through. So introduce yourself to the media, and it can be as simple as, hi, this is what I do, these are my area of expertise, I've got some articles on XYZ, I've just wondered if it's of interest to you. We've had members that have secured being contributors, regular contributors, as a result of sending an introductory email. We've got templates that you can access, so that's not a problem at all, but you can introduce yourself to the UK media. It's just about offering them value and connection and information that's relevant to that audience. So get connected to the relevant media outlets. So I've kind of talked about how you can kind of connect with stories, case studies, success stories, trending news stories, but the kind of the missing jigsaw piece, isn't it, is connecting to the right type of journalist. And this is, I suppose, the bit where the magic happens. And this is where PR agencies do a great job, and they do build up great connections, but most of them will use a media database. So they will have a media database that has access to 80,000 or all of the journalists. So this is, for example, this is a media database that we use and we partner with, and we have access to 80,000 journalists, and I can search for journalists by any kind of sector name that they talk about. So this is just, I've just put in Good Morning Britain, the people, so this is a lady that's head of features for Good Morning Britain. I've just taken out her details a little bit there. From a GDPR point of view to protect her. But what we can do is actually connect you to the right type of journalist, and it's understanding that. Let me just share this with you. So this is what the media database looks like, and this is kind of the missing piece. If you want to get local coverage, regional coverage, or trade coverage on an ongoing basis, you want to subscribe to something like this, and it's not massively expensive, just £150 a month. But this is whether you access it with me or through other people. So what you're allowed to do is you can search by any media channel. As I said, there's national newspapers, consumer magazines, influence. You can see there for yourself. But what is great is you can search by keywords. You can literally search by the journalist or the media outlet from what they're talking about, which is really helpful. But you can also write people that write about things. So let's say we want to look at all the journalists that write about business for the national newspapers. We can do a search there, and what it will do, it will pull up the journalists that write for the national newspapers. So there we've got the Sunday Telegraph. Now we've got all of the journalist details here, and what we don't want to do is go into just the press office. We want to go to the business editor. So there's the actual specific journalist details. So that's what you want to try and do. You want to aim to use a database like this, whether it's someone with myself or somewhere else, where you can actually access the right type of journalist. If you do want a demonstration, that's not the reason for today, is just, you can just email me and I can book you up with a demo to show you how it works. But the two things you need to do is share your story from an emotional connection point of view, and then obviously connect to the right type of journalists. One PR success story could change your business overnight, and I've seen it happen so many times with the clients that we've worked with, whether they are bigger, larger SMEs or small one-man bands. PR can literally transform your business, but also your profile. It's also great from a leverage point of view, and that you can leverage any publicity that you've got to get future customers as well. But people just trust you more when you've had publicity. This was one client that was working with me, and she basically is a matchmaker. So she does, she's dating, so she charges her clients, I think it's £10,000 to introduce her to the right life partner. So she holds events where they kind of all mingle and get together, and she wanted to be featured in the Times. Now, she had access to the media database, but it was interesting because, you know, you can send unlimited press releases through it, you can target and connect to the social media accounts. But I just said to her, why don't you just pick up the phone and speak to the right journalists and invite them to your networking event you've got for the single, so they can see what it's like and write about it. And that's what she did. So everything I'm sharing with you isn't really kind of rocket science. It's not breaking news stories. It's quite basic stuff, really, but it's just understanding how to approach the right type of journalist and what you approach them with that emotional connection. Anyway, she got featured in the Times, a double page spread, just for simply picking up the phone, inviting the right journalist. So she was the journalist that wrote about relationships for the Times. She came along, she even got featured, as you can see, The Secret Tales of the 25,000 Dating Club. Now, this had a snowball effect. And PR often does this. PR, if you might get featured on radio or in the Good Morning Britain or the BBC Breakfast, often the newspapers will then pick up the story, or the other way around. If the story's been trending in a national newspaper, they'll invite you then to come onto the radio station. And I've seen this happen time after time. It's happened with myself. They got then asked to interview, to write an article for, I think it was The Independent. Yeah, The Independent. So they've had a snowball effect. So it's done extremely well. Now she goes on to organise a lot of TV stuff for people like Mingles, and I've been one of a TV channel, you know, so it can absolutely be brilliant for your business. So I think this is a good chance to stop. Is there any questions that anybody would like to ask? And just a quick minute, if you'd like to unmute yourself, if you've got any questions at this stage that you might want to ask. Let's have a look. I'm head of marketing. Just having a look here. Okay, so I don't think there's any questions come through. One message. I've got a meeting. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so thank you all the way for keeping online. I'm going to be sharing with you any minutes now how you can basically secure this TV interview. There will be a recording of this, so you can go back and listen to it or share it with any of your colleagues if you wanted to. So let's get on to the most important thing on how we can get your story out to the right type of journalist. So what are the PR pitfalls before we go on to the opportunity? It is literally just taking the time to kind of be inspired, have the confidence, and to understand what the media is all about, because it is quite scary. I get that. You know, some of you may have had media training, and media training can, you know, start from £500 a day. We offer loads of media training where you can just listen to radio interviews or TV interviews, you know, just have the confidence, because every media channel is slightly different in your approach. So for example, with radio, it might be, if it's regional radio and it's BBC, there's 60 to 70% talk. So you've got a good time where you can do debates, conversations. But whether it's a commercial radio station, it's probably going to be sound bites. And again, if there's a trending news story in radio and you feel that you can comment on it and you are the expert, or you can do it from a regional point of view, you could actually comment on your iPhone or your digital phone and send that voice comment in, because sometimes the quality is good enough, they will use that. In TV, you have to think in pictures. TV is thinking about, what does the story look like? And again, when you watch the news tonight, when you watch the news tonight from a commercial point of view, from your point of view, see how the story looks. If it's a community story or watch a regional news story, you'll see that they'll interview someone, they'll do a piece to camera, they'll go around the showroom or whatever it is, they'll have a good story, they'll have a case study. See how it looks in pictures, because if you feel that you've got a good TV story, that's fine, but how are you going to fill the frames from a picture point of view? So you might be great in manufacturing, you might have a story how you've overcome something and you've built a new prototype of something. That's going to be great because they can interview piece to camera, they can do the screenshots they're talking about in the background in the factory, how you've changed someone, how it's changed their life, and they're using the equipment. So think about how it looks in pictures. So just have the confidence to get prepared and think about how you're going to approach your story. Know where to start. As we've said, this is pretty much what we've covered off. Start with the end in mind. If you're going to send, and if you're going to pick up the phone to speak to a journalist and there's a trending news story, have your email ready. Have your email ready to send, because I bet you they'll say to you, can you just drop me an email? They're very busy people, journalists. Sometimes they can come across as abrupt. They're not rude on the whole. They're great people, but they just want to get to the chase. One of the things I've said as well before is the headline and your summary is the most important thing. Don't always feel you have to have a press release, as I've said, to make a good story. Their job is to do the journalist. Their job is to write the story. If you are great at writing, fantastic. If you're not, the headline is the most important thing. Grab their attention. One of the journalists that I spoke to, freelance journalist she's written for The Guardian Online, which reach 500,000 unique users a day. She said, if you can just summarize it in the less characters of a tweet, they know, they're the journalists, they know what makes a good story or not. So it's a bit like your marketing campaigns and your email campaigns. Get used to writing great short articles or headlines so that they can see what the story is about, and then they'll contact you if they want more details. And then it's taking the time to reach the right type of journalists. As I say, I interview journalists all the time, and I'd say, I interviewed the Coventry Evening Telegraph, the editor of the Coventry Evening Telegraph, and he said to me, you must get 200 to 300 press releases a day. So this is to think how busy it gets. But what was happening is they were going to the news desk, but then they were also trying to contact him as the editor. And he said probably half of those never got personalised to him. So they didn't take the time to find out who he was. And he actually said to me, and I remember it, and I've got it on video, if they can't be bothered to find out who I am, I can't be bothered to read the press release, which I kind of think is fair enough. It's a bit, oh God, okay. So just take the time to find the right contacts, whether you use a media database or not. You guys, with Google now, there's no excuse. Phone up and ask them who the lifestyle editor is, the manufacturing editor. The smaller the titles, the smaller the team will be. So the trade magazines will probably only have 3 or 4 people working there. So they probably haven't got the luxury of a property person or a business editor or a lifestyle editor. But the larger the newspapers and the bigger the groups, they will. Think about your audience, about, if you want to be on BBC Radio, do you want to be drive time, where you're reaching people that are going into business, and driving time in the morning? So talk to the radio producer in the morning, and the same with the news channels. So take the time to just do your due diligence, because honestly, one business could change your company overnight. So this is the opportunity to secure a TV interview at Festival of Enterprise. We've been really lucky that we're hosting the Meet the Journalist sessions. We've got the journalists there, and we've got a press area and a media area. So it'd be lovely for you to come along and we can connect and meet and have a coffee and a chat and everything. But we've also got an opportunity now. We have limited spots with this. Got an opportunity for you to have a TV interview. This TV interview is going to be live streamed across the Business Connections Live. Now, Business Connections Live is what is the UK's online business television channel. It's fantastic. I've done interviews there myself in the past, and it's just very, very credible. They do live interviews every single week. They're coming to the Festival of Enterprise, and they're looking for stories, and they want to secure interviews. Now, this is an opportunity where you can secure up to 5 minutes. That's like a mini interview, TV interview, but it's something you'll be able to keep for yourself, and it will be streamed live at the event as well. The way that it will work is they will be coming there, they'll have the green screen in the backdrop, it will be streamed live, they'll do a recording, and you will get a copy of it. Now, why would you do this? There's loads of ways that you can use this. And a 5-minute interview on TV is actually a long time. It's a piece to camera. So they'll be interviewing you. You will have chance in the beginning to be able to give them your story and your expertise, so you can position yourself as the industry expert. It's from a B2B point of view, so most of you, and you'll be able to use it on your press page. So it'll be a great way of presenting your personal brand and your story, if that's what you want to do, positioning yourself as the industry expert. So they'll shape the interview to what you want. It's going to be great that you'll be able to use it as part of your social media campaigns and your own marketing. It could be great for a press release story that you can then follow it up and send it out to the media in light of your recent interview. Obviously, as we know, from a marketing point of view, you know, when you optimize it, it's great because they'll be also putting it on their YouTube channel. It'll be streamed hopefully at, well, it will be at the Festival Enterprise as well, and hopefully across their social media channels. But it's just a great way to kind of say, if you haven't done a TV interview already, this is a great opportunity for you to do that. Now, the way that this is going to work, as I say, we've only got limited spots because obviously we can only do so many in an hour. We've got 20 each day, 20 on the Wednesday and 20 on the Thursday. You will get to pick your slot. There is a small cost for this. It's not too much. It's just £200 plus VAT if you want to secure it. Now, we're going to do it on a first come first served basis. Obviously, you guys are first because you're watching this live. Others will be watching it on the replay. We'll also be offering it at the event. We will sell these out without a doubt, and at the event it will be a higher price as well. So we've done this, I've agreed to do it because obviously you're already exhibiting at a much discounted price for you. So if you are interested in securing, I'm going to show you the link in a minute and you can just click through to it. But I'm also going to give you kind of the bonus. We've got journalists that want your stories. So not only will you have your TV interview, you'll also be able to, you'll have a link and it will give you an overview how to prepare for the TV interview. But I'll also be asking you to kind of, what are your expertise at? What trending news stories have you got at the moment? Or give me an overview of a headline story. And then I'll be putting that to the journalists that will be there at the event. And they may pick your story at the event to talk about. So you get to pitch live in the audience. If you can't make it, you can let me know. But certainly they'll be able to use your story to the run up to the event or after the event. I'm also going to be able to send out for you your press release and your story to all of the West Midlands media, because we're connected with all of them. We give them an overview of what stories are, because they want stories, they want great stories. And also you can get a VIP media pass to Media Matchmaker Club that you can join. So it's a really, really fantastic offer. So what I'm going to do is, just bear with me. I'm just going to share the link for you. I think you send links via chat if that's easier. Thanks, Joy. I think I've sent it now. Oh, can you see it? Fantastic. Is there any questions? I'm hoping you found that useful. PR is a great opportunity. As I say, we've got the journalists that are going to be there, and they're great journalists. There's going to be Reach PLC. Now, Reach is a new online business internet service that I'm going to be interviewing him as well, that's part of the Post and Mail. This is from a B2B point of view. They are looking actively for stories, so we want to feature you. You'll have the opportunity to pitch your story there. You'll have the opportunity to actually meet them. So hopefully this will be kind of the great way to position you to get PR ahead of the event, during the event, and obviously after the event as well. Are we going to get copies of the slides you've gone through? There isn't copies of the slides, but what I can do is make this available again for you, so you can obviously watch the rerun if you wanted to and share it with anybody. What is perfect is there's not been any questions, which is absolutely brilliant, and you're all still there as well, which is great. So I think that's pretty much it. We've covered it off. As I say, we will sell out with the TV interviews. It's going to be fantastic. It'll be really good for you. And what we'll also do, obviously, introduce you to the journalists as well. I'd love you to join Media Matchmaker. We've got a free Facebook group if you want to be part of it, and you can access previous interviews that we've done as well. What I'll do with anyone when you sign up to the TV interview, as I say, it's on a first come first served basis. You can send me your preferences on what days you want the interview, whether it's the Wednesday or the Thursday, the morning or the afternoon. You'll send me 2 or 3 preferences, I think it is, and then I'll get you booked in, and then that's your time slot that will be allocated. As I say, we'll give you the brief as well in advance. But hopefully you guys have got your story. I'm hoping that this has been of use to you. I'll send you an email later. Feel free to ask me any questions via email. If you want a demonstration on the media database, I'll happily do that on a separate occasion with you. But that's pretty much it, really, I think, unless there's any final questions from anybody else. Thanks for your time. You are most welcome. Guys, I'm going to leave it there because I appreciate how busy we are. Hope you found it useful, and I will, brilliant. Thank you. Oh, that's great. I'm feeling the love now. It's hard, isn't it, when you speak to camera for an hour and you're not speaking back. So have a great day. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you all at the event and meeting you. As I say, we've got a press and media area that's going to be there. So please come along, say hello to us, and hopefully also you'll get booked in so we can secure your radio interview. I'm going to end this now, guys. See you all soon. Thank you very much. Take care.